Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. Happy Sunday night shit
What is
show.
it, Sunday?
It is Sunday.
It may not be Sunday or Wednesday. I never know, but I know it's a shit show. So that's consistent.
It's always a shit show. It's always a shit show. Yeah, it's Sunday. It's a shit show. How was your Valentine's Day, Pat?
Me and the cats had a blast.
Aw, I like that.
How was yours?
It was fine. It's we went out for dinner. It was nice. It was freezing. It was raining, but we sat outside and it was nice. Came home, watched a movie or a show. Very old people version of a Valentine's Day.
I mean, I think that's the best way to do it, to be honest.
Yeah, when every day is Valentine's Day. No, I'm kidding. After 35 years, it's certainly not. We were on our best behavior, managed not to fight for a whole night. It was perfect. All right. Let's any other thing you want to share? Do you want to just get to it? I feel like we're
I had a good time last night. We I do the Jackbox thing that you didn't join us in last night, which
I'm sorry.
People were very disappointed.
I know. I'm sorry.
But when the pandemic started, we started doing this, and we played Jackbox games, which is like Cards Against Humanity, adult filthy humor kind of stuff. But we meet online and do a Zoom call. And last night I opened it up to some new people, so we had a whole bunch of new people playing, and it was really a good time. So
that's nice. I love that you do that. It's really hard to find a group of people, a place where you can all go. So the fact that we can do this online and with people across the country and be safe, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Community is so important. And even though I am often very antisocial, I know that's the way to fight back on some level, is to find our people and really forge strong bonds with them. And so that's admirable and it's important. And I salute you, and I will try to join again sometime soon. I'm not very good at it. I think that's why.
You've won half the time. She's full of shit. She's just full of shit.
Reflect the Sun. That's very funny. Yes. Josh burns things in the kitchen and scares everyone to death. So it's good when we get along nice, and he's not, creating another way to kill me off in another movie. I've been killed off in his movies in the most vile ways. So I need to balance that out.
I love that.
Okay, let's thank our wonderful Pup Heroes and Sheroes, our members. You guys, we thank you. We salute you. We are so grateful to you guys. Thank you so much. Truly, truly, thank you. Cheers. Cheers. I'm gonna have a sip. My first sip of the day.
My beer of the day is 1-2 Punch. How does that fit the show?
I like that. That's good. They have really good names for their beers at your place. I like it.
Tasty too.
Before I forget, my favorite part of the show, just kidding. Please make sure to like and subscribe and smash that notification bell. Right? Do you want to, what are we doing? Are we spinning the wheel or are we getting right to it? What do you want to do?
I was checking Twitter because I'm on a block fest over here.
Oh yeah. You got into it today.
I poked the bear with Jimmy Dore, and
what happened?
I'm always here to feud with that guy because he's fallen off to the dark side. All I did pretty much was share this and say who changed, because his followers just flock me like crazy and say, "Oh, you changed, Pat. You mask, whatever." And here he is interviewing Steve Bannon. And I just want to remind people, it's not that he's interviewing Steve Bannon that's wrong. It's just that he's a big pussy who brings his followers to Bannon. He doesn't convince any of Bannon's followers to adopt leftist policy.
Right. And I didn't watch this, but I'm assuming he did not challenge him on anything, any of the great replacement white supremacist theories. Oh, you're muted.
Of course not. We can go back to the Boogaloo Boys, to
Rittenhouse,
God, and to prove his point, to prove my point that he's pulling people right. he posts that I shared that, and then 100 people come to my site, come to my post, and put "you're gay," hard R bomb, oh the mask diaper. It's like,
Oh
yeah,
my God, the mask diaper.
that's why
Grow up.
we're calling him out, because he led you to these terrible beliefs. He normalized this right wing
Yeah.
tactic of calling people gay and R bomb.
Yep.
That's okay with his followers,
Yep.
because 100 of them just showed up and did that to me.
Yeah, I mean, it really is like mask off. It's a what is it? Face diaper off moment. Yeah, that's ridiculous. And also, yeah, the Boogaloo Boys and all the stuff with the truckers, and then the Rage Against the War Machine, and which people are we going to find solidarity with? And again, like, you're not going to agree with every single point of every aspect of the people you organize with. But to bring in people who are actually spewing hate towards the other people who are your allies is like,
And we're not talking like a Brianna Joy Gray moment where they're having a discussion about, oh, what's the right view on this? What's your view?
Yeah.
What's my view? It's none of that challenging at all.
no,
that's
of
the problem.
course not. Yeah, there's no challenging. And also, like, I don't think that we leave allies behind, right? Like, there became this big thing about we're not going to be woke. It's like the George Galloway, right? Anti-woke, anti-climate, anti-COVID. Not anti-COVID infection, just like we're not talking about it. And so it became like woke then is code for, honestly, that became code for trans right issues. Just the way DEI, you might as well just,
right.
The N word, like they have their words, and he adopted that. That's gross. So then what are you? You're just anti-war? Well, these people aren't anti-war, right?
Well, and Jimmy's crew mocks homosexuality all the time, mocks trans people.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not the left, right?
No,
and it's so clear. And it all went hand in hand with this pivot around the trucker rally time, when we know the big guy behind that was libertarian, who was throwing money left and right at all these people to share his beliefs. And Jimmy benefited from that massively.
Yeah.
And his entire staff left, from the people behind the cameras. Maybe there's one person there, I don't know, but his producer left, his on-air people left. Everybody left him because he didn't represent their values. The people who stayed with him are the people that he latched onto because they shared the same outrage when he was correct on issues over the Bernie stuff.
Right. That's right. Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't know where he actually started or what was in his heart, but yes, the outrage from his health issues and the desire for Medicare for all felt genuine. And then I'm really not, I think a lot of people, and obviously, like, I was devastated, like most of us, when Bernie's campaign was crushed and when he didn't fight and but it, to me, it's like that thing that liberals will say, like, I agree with you, but the way you talk, like, I don't care about Medicare for all anymore. Like, the way, your approach to it is all wrong and you're so dogmatic, or whatever they say. You could talk about Medicare for all any way you wanted, or, a thriving wage, or, fighting for a better climate, whatever you said, it would not destroy my own principles on those issues. Right. So like, that always just feels like such an immature response. Like, well, I would have cared about people leading dignified lives if you hadn't phrased it in such an off-putting way.
I mean,
like, what are you talking about?
You can just look into him leaning into Tulsi Gabbard instead of Bernie, because Bernie wouldn't come on his show. And then him trying to justify how he supported her and her shitty healthcare plan. And everybody could see what hot garbage she is. And now, of course, look where she is too. Is this all coincidence?
I don't know.
Jimmy and Tucker and Tulsi Gabbard and the COVID deniers, Joe Rogan, it's all funneled by money at some point. Doesn't mean some of these people don't believe some of the stuff they spew. But you don't go from a Bernie leftist naturally to the position he holds now. To just abandon the disabled people, abandon the minorities and the oppressed people, and mock them openly, and think, hey, saying gay and, you know, the R-bomb is cool practice from the left? Like, what do you stand for, dude?
It's disgusting. Wait, that's interesting. Wait, sorry, I'm just looking right here. In German parlance, Jimmy pretends to be BSW, but is AFD. And the second the money dries up, yeah, I mean, that's how it just does feel like it is so much easier to move right. You get financing, which is why I think, you know, a lot of times when we come to the part of like, why doesn't the left in Congress, the liberals, have their own, you know, people are saying like force the vote or the Freedom Caucus, the Tea Party kind of energy where they were willing to burn it all down because they had big money behind them, right? So like, because none of these people really cares about anything except for enriching themselves, so they'll do anything for their donors. So if you're being paid to block legislation or you're being paid to fight for the legislation, you're being paid. And on the, you know, Democratic side, nobody's paying the pretend squad to do anything. So then they really are left out in the lurch a little more. I am not excusing them 100%. They should still
No, that's
fight
it.
for what, you know, yeah. But I
And I think
understand why it happens so much more regularly on the right.
and a
That's where the
lot of
money
the
is.
most outraged people latched on to people like Jimmy because he was the loudest
Yeah.
voice in the outrage spectrum online.
Yeah.
And what happens with that is you get a lot of the people that are the most disillusioned. And what you were just saying about how the left doesn't have anyone that they can pay. There's no one to pay people on the left for opinions, right? You know, there's no money to be a lefty
Right.
journalist or whatever. But a lot of these heavily disillusioned people were the most invested in Bernie, and they did feel, and I among them, that people were buying politicians in a way for the first time. Like we were investing money in these people because there is no other avenue. They're not getting money. But that experiment failed. And so the people that understand it failed because the system was fucked. Hopefully they still stayed left, but some disillusioned people need to believe in something in power. And then they latch on to libertarianism. And then they latch on to, well, everything must be a conspiracy because they fucked over us Democrats, progressives on the left. So RFK must be right, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and it's hard because a lot of the conspiracies end up being true. And because there's no principled person or party, you know, in the mainstream of our government, there's a lot that goes left unsaid or lied about. And it just provides a huge, you know, space for, a huge space for all the lies that have often glimmers enough of truth that then, you know, you can get swayed because we all know, like, it is such a dereliction.
Fauci lied.
Fauci lied.
We know that. Okay, so does that mean science is fake? Does that mean all these scientists are lying?
He is science.
Right?
Yeah. But like that didn't help, right? That he said those words, that he lied, that he said those words. Didn't help that the World Health Organization lied that it wasn't airborne COVID, right? It doesn't help that we see, you know, now with the internet, mainstream media is caught in lies daily and they're checked daily. So it's just hard to know when nobody believes anything. That is a really scary place to be in. Like there's no pure fountain of information. And so that is a difficult place to be in. So you really do sort of have to do your own research and you go to the journalists that you trust and who, you know, in the end, like years later, they were the first ones talking about, let's say like electric intifada and the Hannibal Directive, right? They were talking about that and the gray zone at the very beginning, right after October 7th. And then, okay, but then I see other things, you know, obviously there is some COVID denialism on some of this, like, you know, so it really is difficult. Like you have to find your group for each different issue. And that is really hard. That is really hard. And you know what, Jay, let's just end our little rant with that. That's perfect. That is a perfect thing to say. All right, let's spin the wheel. Let's do a little fun before we get to, you know, more of the good stuff. All right, here we go. add to the stage, wheel, and spin it. All right. I just poured my first glass. So I suggest, just in case we don't get to a wedge soon.
There you go. I pregame.
63 high, coming in on target. You need to move a little faster than that, son. Heat is light.
Okay, this is an annual wife-carrying race, and the winner gets to drink free beer that's equivalent to his wife's body weight. I don't know why the noise just went off. All right. That just, I can't imagine a worse way to earn my liquor, actually.
I mean, I'll take some. How much free beer was it? You didn't tell me.
The body weight of your wife.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
I mean, after all that work, going through water, jumping over a log. Yeah. I just,
I'd be down to try it.
My wine is cheap enough that I would not have to do that. And Josh just wrote that we should try that, which would be hilarious. I think throw out our backs and fall on the very first.
You have a wife? Yeah, I can't just find some Tinder girl that weighs like 40 pounds.
But but then it's like diminishing returns. Like, so you win, but you only get 40 pounds.
But it's worth it. I mean, that's I mean, it's much easier. I'm just saying. I get a little what are they called? That little jockey girl that rides horses.
Yeah, there you go.
4 foot tall.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I'm reading your comments. You guys are funny. All right. So, our cheers tonight is it's both I mean, I don't know. The world is just so depressing right now. So we're looking for glimmers of beauty and love, but the backdrop of this, of course, is horrifying. But let's take a look at how the almost 50,000 orphans in Gaza at this point, many of whom have had to have amputations and have sicknesses and are without any family, let alone just parents. And they devised a new acronym that's specific only to Gaza: wounded child, no surviving family, no surviving family. So they are in dire need of these sorts of wonderful people.
اهلا وسهلا فيكم في قريه الوفاء اللي بتضم 200 يتيم ناجي وحيد فقد اهله بالكامل وفقد ابسط حقوق. احنا قدرنا بقريه الوفاء لرعايه الايتام ان هي تكون اكبر حاضنه تستوعب الاطفال الايتام وتوفر لهم سبل الحياه وسبل الامن والامان، وكيف يقدروا نسترجع لهم تعليمهم وكيف نخليهم يتخطوا الظروف الصعبه والاضطرابات النفسيه والسلوكيه اللي هم عاشوها خلال الحرب.
هاي شو بالانجلش؟ برافو. وهاي
اسم بحرف الأو.
أسود.
أسود. شاطر.
يلا جيبوا لي حيوانات بحبوها.
هي الزوايا من احلى الزوايا اللي بحبوها الاطفال، كثير بيتفاعلوا فيها لانهم بيعبروا فيها على الالوان المختلفه، والالوان هي بالنسبه لهم حياه وامل وتفاؤل. والاطفالنا انتم عارفين في الحرب قد ايه فقدوا هذه الالوان وفقدوا الحياه وفقدوا الامل، بس كانوا بيشوفوا الركام والسواد والدمار. احنا بنحاول بهي الزاويه انهم يقدروا يفرغوا الطاقه السلبيه اللي هم بيعيشوها عن طريق الالوان، عن طريق الرسومات اللي هم حابين يرسموها. الكل رهان على فشل جيل كامل بعد فقد التعليم، ولكن احنا بالزاويه الذوي البسيطة هاي. بقرية الوفاء قدرنا إنه إحنا نحيي التعليم من جديد بطريقة مهنية بسيطة سلسة ترجع للأطفال التعليم وترجع لهم الأشياء الأساسية اللي ممكن يسترجعوا فيها تعليمهم. طبعا المكان مجهز بطريقة إبداعية رغم قلة الموارد وعدم توفر الموارد الخام والظروف الصعبة اللي إحنا بنعيشها وأقل الإمكانيات المتوفرة. قدرنا بالظروف الصعبة هاي إحنا نخلق هذه البيئة الجميلة اللي ممكن الطفل يتعايش معها وتكون مناسبة له.
Yeah, to create that sort of just little oasis of colorful
alternate universe.
Yeah, love.
Did you
And
see the
also-
pictures of a couple students going to school and they were both amputees, you know, limping their way to school? It's like, what are we?
I know.
And they don't even have a real home yet. None of this is, you know, there's just this
No.
temporary little
It's like a
oasis
little-
there, but like,
Yeah, they don't have a home. And, you know, I mean, the way the woman was talking about it, like, well, during the war, sort of the way people talk about it during COVID, like back when COVID was happening, because obviously the war persists. And even though there's a ceasefire, Israel continues to bomb whole neighborhoods in the West Bank. But even in Gaza, I think they've killed 115 people since the ceasefire began. So yeah, but so to people who can find any joy and beauty in them to share with the next generation and combat the whole evil project of Israel to end all future generations is really, I mean, they're just heroes. It's just amazing. And to continue teaching them, and, you know, I think they have the highest literacy rate in the world. You know, which is phenomenal even before October 7th, when Israel started its heavy onslaught and siege. They were still being treated so abominably, right? So it's just miraculous. And
we're told, you know, by our government via Israel that these are barbarians, that these are animals, and they have the highest literacy rate in the world. You know, this is just, the lies are just so obvious to everybody except for dumb Americans, ignorant Americans not paying attention.
I got to show you one of them really quickly.
Maybe let's just do our Israel segment.
Can we just go with that? All right.
Yeah, I think so.
This is one of the dumb ones. Here we go.
Jerry, can I get a selfie?
Sure.
Free Palestine!
I don't care about Palestine.
That's sad.
Can you even imagine? I can't imagine saying that about anybody. Like, I really
hated that fucker for so long, but like he just exposes why I hated him. You know, I mean, this arrogant little fucker who's always chiming in on other comedians, who thinks he's this grand poobah of comedy.
Yeah, the grandfather of comedy, of the modern era of comedy. I know.
He dated a 16-year-old, and, you know, just
she was 17. Just so we're not fake news. Yeah, 17, high school student when he was in his 30s. Oh, Pat left. I corrected him and he left. But I have it's
I've had enough.
But, you know, especially after, you know, anything that ever happens to Israelis gets so much media attention. And, you know, we hear the story, and listen, anything that happens to anybody, every person is a universe, right? We believe that. That's why we're socialists, right? We believe everybody deserves to have a dignified life. But that treatment does not happen to Palestinians. So even when they talk about, you know, hostages, and Israel took, well, it wasn't even only Hamas, but, you know, there were 220 hostages taken from the Israeli side. And then you look, and, you know, already there were thousands of, and of course, right away called prisoners, Palestinian prisoners, which implies wrongdoing. Many of them held with no charges, but certainly no trial. Some of them were young, like 7, 8 years old, stolen from their parents' homes in the middle of the night, And you don't hear any of that, you know? So like to see right now, last week, there were 3 Israeli hostages who were released, who were pretty gaunt, did not look the way the other hostages have looked. And there's, you know, all of this is for the media and for public consumption. So when Hamas releases their hostages, they have a big show of things. They often give them gift bags. Sometimes the hostages say very nice things about their captors. You know, all of that we have to, of course, take with an enormous grain of salt because we don't know if they're being forced to do that or if they're worried about the people they leave behind. And so they want to, you know, you can't take anything at face value in that regard. But when you see them exiting and they look healthy, that you can, because you can't do that overnight, right? Like that's not a like we're going to put on a show just for the release of the hostages. When the Palestinian hostages are released, they look like the pictures that we used to see from Auschwitz. You know, we see, all right, I have to put my glasses on. This is crazy. We see, you know, emaciated, again, prisoners, hostages, you know, with sores all over their bodies. This young man who was released just yesterday, the Zionist occupation army kidnapped me from Shifa Hospital in Gaza and told me either we kill you or we cut off your leg. They tortured me severely and amputated my leg against my will. I left my father in prison. Another one released with sores all over his body. A lot of them say that the night before they're released, they're beaten even more severely as like a going away gift. These hostages were made to wear the Star of David and the phrase, "We do not forget and we do not forgive." We've seen hostages. I mean, even, yeah, go ahead.
Well, that one where they try to, they're implying that this is the Holocaust again happening to Jews somehow. Like that's why never again, like the Palestinians they were fighting back from prison basically. How are you the Holocaust victims again in this situation? No matter how you define it. How is that
not? Yeah. Even if you want to say, oh, it was a terrorist attack, which I don't subscribe to that. But even if you say that, it was nowhere near, you can't compare it to the Holocaust where the system of power and the structure of systematized death was being perpetrated by the Nazis in Germany to the people who, as you said, are being held in an open air concentration camp fighting for their freedom. They are
now being, you know, the plan is to escort them out of the country. I mean, what does this sound like to you? That's ethnic cleansing. It's just out in the open now.
Yeah. This 80-year-old man, and again, you know, some of these things that are being reported in Israeli papers are not being reported in US papers. In the US papers, they almost, in corporate media, they don't mention the state of the Palestinian hostages who are released at all. Exposing the scene, an 80-year-old Palestinian used as a human shield with an explosive belt tied around his neck. A senior officer in the Nahal Brigade tied an explosive cord to the neck of an elderly Gazan man who was forced to clean houses in the Saidun neighborhood. He served as a human shield for hours until the soldiers ordered him and his wife to leave the neighborhood. Minutes later, they were both shot dead. Another hostage is released only to find out that his whole family has been killed, which of course has happened to, you know, countless hostages released. Again, this man also, he didn't know that his family had all been killed. And, you know, Asal Rad does such a great job of pointing out the disparity in media coverage when it's about Palestinians. So what she's showing is in the AP media report of last week versus this week, they talk about the emaciated Israeli hostages who were freed, but they don't emaciated, which is horrible. Nobody should be poorly treated. Although, of course, when you've got a siege on your, blockade of food and water and electricity on all of Gaza, and your hostages are in Gaza or ostensibly, then what's going to happen? Like, everybody's starving in Gaza, and that's where your hostages are. And there was a deal where Hamas said on either the 9th or 10th of October 2023 that they would release all of the civilian hostages, and Netanyahu would not take that deal. So,
they're currently not getting the food they need. None of this has changed. I mean, it's gotten fractionally better, and everyone, the US media is pretending it's all resolved now. And people online are talking about it less, because the libs are going back to sleep.
Yep.
Although some are blaming Trump for it. They're like, but the blaming Trump comes with blaming the left for allowing Trump to take over, when it's like this entire genocide happened under Biden until now.
Yeah, you can talk about, and he's actually Biden at the beginning talked to Egypt about ethnically cleansing Palestinians. That was always part of the plan. So he's just continuing, just like with almost everything else, he's just continuing what Biden served up to him. And I'm not saying that he would have done it differently or that he cares about Palestinians. He doesn't care about anybody. But like, all these people are like, oh, I hope you're happy that you voted for this now. Well, look what you voted for. Like, it's just so despicable that they even pretend to care. Truly.
Yeah, what's coming is terrible for all the Gazans unless we stop it. But none of it could have happened if we didn't allow and fund their mass destruction to this point.
That's
so, right. If anything, it's true that since Trump took office, there's been a decline in Palestinians killed every day. You can't deny that, and it's just because of the fake ceasefire stuff, and they backed down a little bit. But,
right.
To say it's all so much worse now, when mathematically it's actually better now.
Yeah.
Not saying that's the big long game.
No,
picture,
but yeah, 100%. It's just the hypocrisy of liberals who, both the hypocrisy that they didn't even talk about the actual genocide as it was occurring. It continues, but like they didn't talk about it for a full 15 months. And then the sort of gloating of like, see, we told you that, you think Kamala would have done ethnic cleansing? Like, what are you talking about? She was doing the same program as Biden. In fact, every chance she got to distance herself from it, she refused. You don't bring Richie Torres and Bill Clinton to Michigan to talk about how it's really important that we continue this war against Palestinians in Gaza.
It was so important to her that she wanted Shapiro as her VP.
Yeah.
Rabid Zionist Shapiro was going to be her VP, but he was caught up in this protecting a murder of somebody who was stabbed. They declared it suicide, the 20 stabbing thing, so that scandal killed his campaign, but he was going to be the VP if it were not for that story breaking.
Yeah. So the hypocrisy and the callousness of liberals is just, it's not surprising, but it does shock me just to see the depth to which they will go. There has also been, of course, this is not even, what is the number? Because I feel like the number is, they don't have the number, but I feel like it's almost 200 journalists were killed just in Gaza this year, or during the last 15 months. But 2/3 of them were killed. Of all the journalists killed around the world, 2/3 of them were killed by Israelis this past year.
And
so, yeah,
historically, the largest death toll ever for reporters ever
in 1 year, ever. Yeah.
Ever.
Just like the largest number of children killed.
From the most moral army on earth, where even Trump and Bibi agree it's nowhere you can live. How did that happen? If you're the most moral army on earth, there's nowhere to live there.
There's just absolutely no justification for any of this. It's horrifying. And, they're shooting kids at school in the West Bank. They are bombing whole neighborhoods. They're burning people's crops. They are killing all of their livestock in the West Bank. No Hamas in the West Bank. So, the lie, they're not even trying with the lie. It's like the whole thing where you weren't even allowed to say Nakba ever. The Nakba, the catastrophe, the purging of 750,000 Palestinians in 47, 48. You weren't allowed to talk about it. Didn't exist. It's a lie.
Yeah. Never forget. But this Holocaust, you have to forget.
Yeah.
You have to forget that one because we were behind that one.
Right away on October 7th, it was like, oh, we're doing Nakba 2 now. Like, wait, what? You've spent 76 years saying that there was no Nakba, and now you're like, no, we're going to do it again. And then, this trumps that first one. I mean, I don't know if it trumps, I shouldn't even compare, but like to do it now with the whole world watching and with the complete complicity, which I mean, I know that, obviously in 47, it was the complete complicity of the US and UK also. So I guess that hasn't changed. But yeah, and bombing Lebanon, even though there's a ceasefire. I mean, it's incredible how much we are reliant on other nations not being provoked by all of this. We're just hoping, that Iran doesn't retaliate, that, Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, like nobody
as
can
we economically
yeah.
shrink in the world. And we're cutting off the one last thing that sort of made us good to some people occasionally with US aid, which was medicine and money for programs in all these developing countries and countries in need. We're pulling all of that. So that means that vacuum is taken up by China and BRICS and countries that want to replace the US dollar, and rightfully so, to kill our hegemony in the world. So what happens, I mean, we are all less safe because of that, both for what's going to happen to us economically and our actual safety, because we enabled all that mess. So all the countries that think that was a fucking disaster and still is, we are the targets of their angst.
And obviously, I mean, I am not a big fan of USAID overall, as I think, those good parts of it, which people relied on, of course, but like were like philanthropy of, whitewashing what USAID was actually there to do, which is regime change and use our financial weight to bribe and cajole and force other countries to do our bidding or to give us their resources or to overthrow their own democratically I mean, I know we all know all of that, but yes, if you want to do a true audit of that organization, I would love it. Take away all that crap and keep the aid coming. But of course, that's not what they're going to do. Yeah, no, we are all much less safe than we were.
And that's the point. Obviously, USAID it's where they embed journalists and economic hitmen, and they get all these programs, and it's all corrupt as well. A lot of corruption. But look, if the only AIDS vaccines are coming through that program for a country, for example, and you just cut it off, I mean, what does that do? Those people are going to hate us like you want some 9/11s. This is how you get 9/11s.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. But of course, I think we probably have those coming to us anyway, unfortunately. I mean, yeah. So, okay. And this is the other thing, the pager terrorist attack that Israel did against, well, they said against Hezbollah, but of course it affected 200 people. Many of them were children and civilians, and it was a terrorist attack, right? You have a pager that blows up in your face. But that was sort of framed by US media and many of our Congress people as some
pretty
sort
cool
of like
007 stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so, when internationally wanted war criminal genocider Netanyahu is welcomed into our government, into the White House, which is just disgusting. Also, that happened under Biden, right? But he leaves his gift was a pager mounted on the base of an olive tree, because the IDF loves to, and settlers, to destroy olive orchards that Palestinians, have cared for, have been in their families for generations. They take a lot of glee in destroying those trees. And so this was like a double whammy, hilarious little trinket, which is a gold pager mounted on a slice of a destroyed olive tree.
I mean, look at how history is going to look at this. It's just like we all just sat there and said, this is okay. The U.S. should do this. I mean, Germans were hated for decades after the Holocaust.
Oh,
and
Japanese, like
that's
that. And
us.
Oh my God, 100%. Oh, we are the barbarians. And I mean, of course, the Israelis are also. And to see them doing, raping people to death, torturing them, having dogs, training dogs to rape them, amputate. I mean, the goal, even with the peaceful March of Return in 2018, was to try to amputate or force amputations on as many of the people as they could. They were like, that was a contest from the snipers. I do think it is interesting and clarifying, and I really am grateful whenever somebody says it so clearly. Not that I agree with everything by any means that Lawrence Wilkerson says, but I think it's interesting that he's being so vocal about the Palestinians' right to resist.
Palestinians had every right to do what they did on October the 7th. Israel has been under the UN Charter as an occupying power and under Geneva since 1967. It has never fulfilled its responsibilities as an occupying power, never intended to fulfill them. In fact, it has dispossessed the Palestinians of their lands, of their orchards, destroyed their homes, killed their children. It is an irresponsible, under the law, occupying power. Therefore, the Palestinians had every right to do what they did on October the 7th. Every time that F-16 flies over Gaza and drops that 250-pound bomb and kills that child, you are guilty, America.
Yep. Are we the baddies? We certainly are. There was a really great article on a book that I've just ordered, have not read yet, but it had, to the point of what you were saying, of like, looking back on history. And, there's that saying that, liberals hate every war except for the current one and love every civil rights movement except for the current one, right? Because they're just always sort of like swaying in the breeze. Yeah. So his book is called One Day, Omar El-Akkad, and I don't know if you can see it, but it says one day when it's safe, when there's no personal downside to calling a thing what it is, when it's too late to hold anyone accountable, everyone will have always been against this, which is exactly what always happens. And so this is, I think it was from Mondo Weiss, but sorry, I can't remember where this excerpt comes from, but there's some really interesting passages in it. Look up photographs of what we now consider this country's, any country's, most morally diseased moments. He's talking about the US. The dogs being let loose on men and women asking for basic dignity, the marching of undesirables through the streets, the wrath, the bloodlust. Ignore for a moment the people engaged most directly in that violence. Look instead at the faces of those who watch from the sidelines. Often what you'll find is not an expression of proud support or the shock and horror all these people will claim to have felt much later, after the verdict is in. Rather, you'll see a childish little smirk. It's the smirk of someone who has come to realize the ugliness of the enterprise they have passively aligned with, but cannot muster the courage to abandon now. The soul, what's left of it, buckles under the weight of contradiction, and all one can do is hide behind that pained little smirk, the half stance of the spineless, the chanting with not quite enough conviction of 4 more years, as the bodies pile up outside one's door.
And that's so apt to this moment right here in so many ways. I mean, the Democrats are just like, hey, in 4 years, you're going to elect us because you brought this on yourself. And we were
And
always
every
telling
time people
you.
would protest, right? Every time people would protest Biden or Kamala, right away there'd be that group of people just like 4 more, like trying to drown them out, right?
Not the time. It's not the time.
Yeah. And so the end of this article, because, he goes in to talk about how these accusations that, Nancy Pelosi would say, like, well, maybe they're, some of the protests are real, but, a lot of them were influenced by China or Iran or, outside infiltrators. When, she saw all the same polls that we all saw, right? 80% of Democrats, not the left, Democrats wanted a ceasefire. So, his argument is like, of course, she doesn't really think that 80% of Democrats are somehow compromised, right? But it's a way of absolving herself, of making herself feel better, of making all the people in power just feel like we're going to get past it. We're, just
Well, that and if you're in the group if you're a lib and you're looking for justification and it truly is 80%, that's fucked. But if they can spin a little story on MSNBC that a lot of this narrative, a lot of your beliefs may be because you bought into some fake propaganda stuff,
right.
Russia, China,
Yeah.
then that's enough to just let them keep the facade up a little longer and the illusion alive. Enough to get, some fundraising dollars because fascism's on the right. So stop fascism with a couple bucks to the DNC.
It's so ugly. It's just so ugly. And then the passage or the article ends with, does she really believe that countless state and county offices of her own party that have called for a ceasefire are aligned with the Russians, unions representing millions of American workers, the city council of Chicago, all of them agents of hostile foreign powers who have chosen this particular issue to unleash their Manchurian candidates? She doesn't. Just as when she calls for the FBI to investigate activists protesting for a ceasefire, the message's primary audience isn't the FBI or the activists, it's the base. It's to say, as you said, to the centrist who simply cannot understand why a good upstanding student at Columbia would risk their job prospects to protest some distant unpleasantness, these people making trouble are not like you. If they get their way, things will change, and it will not be to your benefit. One struggles to determine the more frightening reality, that this message is a lie or that it's true. I watched an interview with Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat of New York. I think right now what's happening in Gaza, I can't go on every single day seeing this, she says. I don't associate myself with what's happening. I wonder what it must feel like. It must take great courage to dissociate so fully and under such difficult circumstances, which, is a beautifully framed indictment of her cowardice. But yeah, I think, that's the other thing, just kind of coming back to like the overall theme of our show is that, and it's a theme a lot in his book, is that, people don't want to do anything that makes them feel uncomfortable. So liberals have this thing. They say all the time, I agree with everything you're saying. Yes, I believe, police reform, but then they don't care that Biden gave more money to cops with no reform, even though we all know reform actually means nothing anyway. But so it's like the words matter more than the deeds, and they just want to feel good about themselves. But what they really don't want, no matter what, is for their financial existence or their comfort, their level of comfort to be affected at all. And that's really what it always comes down to.
I mean, it's money for a lot of libs, that's it. That's why they're not moved by all these protests for minority groups. It's just an aesthetic kind of, they feel like we're good people. So we support Black Lives Matter movement, but if it's going to hurt the Democrats, I don't want to be woke anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
And hey, yes, we believe science, but the social capital it would take for me to wear a mask, even though I believe everything you're telling me, Pat, I read all the studies you sent me.
How long are we going to do this for?
I'm not hearing this from the Democratic Party, so they would ring the alarm bells, but really they don't want to wear masks because it's too costly to them socially.
Yep. Yeah, it's really disgusting, and you really see it really draws a very clear line about who will actually ever have anyone's back or stick up for what's right when it's important. It's so easy to say in the future, oh yeah, I was against the genocide or the ethnic cleansing, right? It's just it's a really ugly side of humanity. Okay, what do you think? Are we where do you want to is there anything else on this?
We did have another video or two
Yeah.
on Israel. What was it? Oh,
I mean, I think the surveillance
tech's
yeah, is
interesting.
pretty crazy because that's coming for all of us. It's being tested there. It's coming for all of us.
Palestinians had every right to do what they did. Palestinians had every right.
Not that.
Jerry, can I get a selfie?
Sure.
Dude.
Okay, why is this?
People, I think, often maybe don't quite understand that Palestinians need to hide their emotions when they're walking around, that the use of facial recognition technology, biometric data, various other tools that Israel's using means that if there's a perception, rightly or wrongly, that you as a Palestinian look angry, are angry, you are perceived as a threat meaning to settlers or soldiers, you can be arrested, neutralized, namely killed, or taken in for questioning. So I guess what in some ways shocked me, I lived for many years in Palestine. I was based in Israel and Palestine. I've been visiting there for 20 years. But what I think has accelerated is both the extent of the surveillance of all Palestinians from the moment they wake up, if they use their mobile phones, if they use their internet, and the use, of course, of AI in Gaza, artificial intelligence. Israel is not just selling weapons and technology and surveillance tech and border tech. They're doing all that. But they're selling an idea, almost like a model of ethno-nationalism, of control, of separating people, of being a so-called successful nation that has repelled Palestinians.
And they brag about it. I mean, Alex Karp of Palantir brags about testing out his intelligence on Palestinians. You know, little Gaza is a model for all of our cop cities.
They have no shame. I've just been seeing Palantir ads, paid ads on Twitter. I'm like, promoted Palantir ads. Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, I mean, that's Elon Musk's whole group. It's all these weird South African like tech bro. I mean, it's the PayPal mafia, is that what they call them? But it's all like tech and control and stealing our data to control us, the facial recognition, the fact that, anybody with a smartphone is completely tracked, the fact that if you go on to a website, it's curated specifically for you to try to find out what you want, what you like, what you'll buy, where you'll go. I mean, this is their goal. Like, this is what they want to make our world, to control us all.
Yeah. And, as much as I don't want to leave Twitter because Twitter is the public square as close as we can get to right now. Yeah. But to walk into the public square, I have to go on my homepage and see all this stuff about yay right wingers. Yep. And that's just fed to you. It's like, oh, Elon, the tech bro, look, isn't it great that we're weeding out all this corruption? Like everything Elon's doing is what I get hit with first. Yep. When I go to Twitter. Yeah. And everybody does, on some level, unless you block certain phrases and terms, but I want to see what the fuck they're saying, so I don't block that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. It's gross, but I guess I kind of feel like, there's sort of no escaping it because you don't want to be in a bubble. You want to know what you're actually dealing with, which lies they're spewing. Right. But imagine you're not in the world we are, where we're on political Twitter. Right. You're just on Twitter. Yeah. You go on Twitter, they're seeing this stuff. They're getting bombarded with the whole country is right now. Yeah. Anti-woke. We don't want to be woke. Oh, we're all going to bully people who are progressives and leftists and maskers. And we're going to call them gay and the R-bomb. And, You know, that's the world we're in now. Like, but that message is like on the front page of the public square before you walk in. It's like seeing all these banners to get to the free speech place.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not great. It is not great at all. The tech stuff, I mean, obviously, like the actual destruction of people's lives and homes and whole societies is the current horrifying moment that we're in. But this is coming, right? Like, I mean, and they talk about like we know their whole lavender system that was based on AI, where it's like, you look like you're dangerous, you're going to be home, we're going to get you and your whole family. And as you know, we've said so many times before, if something goes wrong and we got a civilian, he was probably somebody, you know, it's like a pre-crime. It's like Minority Report.
Right. And and we've said this before, but the AI has a built-in air factor that genocides. Like they want that. And they just like, well, the system did it. Yeah, we could work on the system to be a little better at killing less civilians, but the system said, and that's what we're up against right now.
That's what we're up against. And, you know, it was given, again, you know, you think about like Obama selling drones as the new way of fighting a war because our people don't get hurt. And then you know that 90% of the people killed by his drones were civilians, were innocent, targeted by mistake. So again, it's like, you know, it's like the setup and then the punch. The set, like it's, you know, they're working in tandem. Obama takes us from 2 wars to 7, gets this whole drone thing, which is an extension, of course, of like, you know, the beginning of the Iraq War. It was like playing a video game. We would see these sort of, you know, the soldiers in their computers, and it was war games. But the removal of the soldiers from combat, while it's safer for them, it also removes the brutality of war and you know, maybe the resistance to it, right? Like you're taking away the human involvement in what you're actually perpetrating, and that is dangerous. I mean, I don't think there should be war. Like, I feel like it'd be so nice if we had real diplomats who made sure these things didn't happen, because at some point, that's the goal. Like, at some point, there won't be a war. At some point, possibly.
Yeah, but as we know, a lot of what drives the war is the weapon industry and the military industrial complex. And what do they want? They don't want someone checking them on any of this. They want bombs to go off, get used, get replaced.
Yep. Why isn't DOGE investigating the Pentagon, the Department of Government Efficiency? Maybe because Elon has like 3 different contracts with the US government worth billions of dollars, the biggest welfare baby in the world. All right,
we'll get into
spinning.
that.
I've got a refill. Let's go, right?
Yes, please.
All right.
Yeah, baby.
All right, I'm refilling and I'm spinning. 1 second.
We have a new wheel coming too, by the way.
We do. We're working. It's a work in progress.
Yeah,
I know we keep threatening our works in progress, but they are coming. All right. Timeline.
I will push the button while you're pouring.
Yeah, I finished my bottle, but there was only 2 glasses. I have another one right here. Don't worry. I'll be fine.
Got it. Show this one already.
Keep drinking, you'll think it's funny the second time. Are you serious? Did we show that before? Sorry if
I
we
know
did.
we showed one that had some of those, but yeah, they were very, very online things, Deborah.
The music is kind of creepy. Some of it, well, there was that spinner at the Australian breakdancer. That was the one on the back, and there was a few other ones. It's hard for me to see in this small window. I don't know how big other people's windows are.
Well, as the extremely online we are, I got 95% of them. There might have been one in there I missed.
I think I even got all of them when I had my glasses on, but now I don't know. And absolutely, Justin, definitely are going to get flagged on that music. Okay. Moving on to the new regime, the Trump regime, same as the old regime. You know, going through a bunch of stuff this past week, trying to abolish OSHA, closing the CFPB, doing away with absolutely any agency that might protect workers, labor unions.
It's such a transparent grab of money and potential, you know, not power, but it's just power. Enriching. It's enriching everybody who's rich. It's all big business stuff. It's fucking the little man over so hard and so transparently. And that's why I've been listening to right-wing radio, because right-wing radio is out there. They're all providing cover, and you can hear it in the voice of these guys. They're like, they don't believe what they're saying. It's so obvious. They're just trying to sell.
They're more MAGA than tech bro. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. I don't listen to that.
No, they're out there trying to defend Elon. Like, we all elected him to do this. It's so great that we're making these cuts.
They know that it's actually like there's the divide, right? There's like the MAGA. I mean, they're all, but
they know they're lying to their audience. You can hear it in their voice. They are lying to their audience. But they're trying to sell the fact that there is corruption, and you will find corruption. So
have they found any? Have they looked for any? Like, we're not seeing anything. I would love that. Yes, look for the corruption. Let's not waste money. You know what's a waste of money is private healthcare insurance. Huge waste of money, completely inefficient. But they won't touch that. They're not going to look at the Pentagon. Instead, they're going to go to the Department of Education. They're going to try to get rid of public
Medicaid,
schools, Medicaid,
schools, SNAP program.
Stephen Semler, friend of show.
Hero.
I love him. Want to have him on again soon. And why aren't I seeing his whole? He had this great thread about all of the things that Trump and the Republicans are trying to do now. We're all sort of teed up and started under Biden, right? So when Biden extended the student loan pause in 2021, the White House said people shouldn't be forced to choose between paying their student loans and putting food on the table. 24 million people were food insecure at that point, but 28 were when Biden restarted payments in 2023. Okay, so this is from the leaked 50-page Republican budget document, the things that they want to cut. GOP's Medicaid cut eliminates the Affordable Care Act's Medicaid expansion, removing coverage for 13 million people. And the GOP estimates this will reduce spending by $561 billion. GOP's SNAP cut reverses Biden's 2021 benefit adjustment, reducing monthly benefits by $36 a person. The GOP estimates this will reduce spending by $274 billion. These cuts would be devastating, but are they worse than those Biden recently enacted? Biden's Medicaid cut kicked over 25 million people off the program. So the GOP's cut would take off 13 million people. Biden kicked 25 million people off the program. And Biden's SNAP cut slashed monthly benefits by $90 a person, more than double the $36 a person that is in the GOP proposal. You know, I mean, it's just, it's so exasperating. And also in the midst of all this pretend fighting that they're on different sides, there are people starving. Like, we have more homeless people than ever before. I think what a third of them are kids, which I mean, nobody should be homeless. That's violence. But like this is a choice. This could absolutely just end today. Like today, there doesn't have to be progressive pragmatism and small steps and da da da. When they want to give trillions of dollars to wealthy people to cover them during COVID, that happens overnight. It's just done. That happens, right? So it could change, but it won't. But like, it's not difficult. There's nothing difficult about raising everybody's wages, providing housing, giving people health care. Nothing. It's super easy.
No, but what we're looking at is the acceleration of AI to replace jobs, cutting of social safety net. So, the only a sane society, a healthy society uses AI. Sure, it's technology, right? To make your life better, but you would at least build in some sort of safety net of UBI at some point, or you got to drop the housing costs. You got to none of this stuff. It's just
instead they're just telling us it's going to be a new social contract. We have to change the social contract a little bit.
Yeah, the new contract is there's no protection for you at work. We're going to let kids start working. Which, by the way, like anytime that people are actually trying to root out, which, again, they are starving all of these different branch or, organizations from actually doing the work of rooting out, regulators. They're starving them all. But like, we have young kids working at fast food restaurants till way late at night, or, heavy, like using heavy machinery against the law already now. Well, we've already defunded all the critical checks and balances in this country on pretty much every level, to where big business can calculate the risk of getting caught for violating these laws versus how much it's going to cost them. And it's always worth violating the law if you're a business. And we're all just so okay with business's motto being get rich no matter what, like that. CEOs can't decide. It's almost like the business has its own life in its own, and you got to just be corrupt and evil, and that's the goal. Make more money every fucking year for your company, for your shareholders, and all that does is extract more money from the working class every single day. And what's happening now with OSHA and what all this stuff Trump is doing should have some resistance to it, but it has fucking none from Democrats, because they wanted this too for their donors.
Exactly. And also, it has none because it was already being chipped away at by the Biden administration, right? Like all of the COVID protections were taken away. Right. It's the same donors. So it's all, they're just fleecing us with a different accent, depending on who's doing it. And this, this feels startling. It always feels startling when Republicans do it because they're so brazen and disgusting about it. They're basically just like, we just want poor people to die, or like work until they die. And Democrats will use the nice language, but on some level, it's more dangerous because people thought that Obama was a really great president because he had a great way with words. And he did a couple, good things like the Ledbetter Act or whatever. He had a couple of nice things. He remember the one press conference where he only picked, female reporters, or he had like those sorts of things, the meme, right? It's like the same bombs, but, pro social issues. But that's dangerous also. I think it's more dangerous in a way. I think this is all dangerous. Like it's horrible.
Well, no, it is.
But like at least because we're awake now.
If you look at the cuts that you just showed to Medicaid and SNAP, that's why right there. It's like we're all up in arms over Trump doing this stuff, but the Democrats actually did more and nobody was really reporting on it.
Yeah.
So if what I think is going to happen is the Democrats win in 2028, right? That's not a guarantee at all, but like things are going to be so bad. I think they do, but they don't come in and like bring these things back. They just make smaller cuts to them all some more, maybe
the hearts on the White House lawn.
Yeah,
for
but then
Valentine's
you know,
Day.
now that you've taken out the woke and you're anti-immigration, and you realize, oh, gay people and people of color and trans people, oh, they hurt your cause. You
Yep.
know, they're not even running on that stuff. So when they get into power, they're not going to go with some liberal agenda. They're going to go with 5% less Republican
Yeah.
agenda.
Just
And
like
then
every tax cut. It
and
never
sometimes
goes
even be
back.
20% worse, like
Yep.
he just was with Medicaid, you know, like,
Yep. I like that. Blue Klux Klan. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's just absolutely no resistance at all. Okay. Sorry. We're going to go
should we
back.
start with the prices?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. I mean, at least, you know, I don't know that he cares because, of course, Trump isn't running again. And so here's the other thing. The other thing that I think is really important is I do think that the people who are like, you know, killing all of us, stealing all the resources and killing everybody, they know what they've done to the world and they are scared. That's why they want to go to Mars or build their bunkers, right? So they're not really worried about the future. So I mean, especially Trump doesn't care. Like they just want to grab everything before it all burns to the ground. So whereas Democrats, I think sometimes are worried about polls a little bit, or they'll fudge them, or they'll try to cut. I don't think Republicans give a shit at all. I mean, certainly Trump doesn't. He doesn't care. But at least, I mean, yes, people are not happy. They don't like Elon, and they want him to focus on what he ran on, which was, I'm going to fix inflation. He ran on that.
Which is why the number one thing I hear on right-wing radio when I listen is the commentators, the hosts, pushing this idea that I don't care how expensive gas prices are, or I don't care about the price of eggs because he's doing this and that and the other. And they're just like, they're trying to justify why none of his promises about inflation and nothing he promised the middle class really mattered, because he's doing these other things which just lean into racism, misogyny, xenophobia, all that stuff, which feels like a win to these people, even if they're paying more every day out of their pocketbooks. For a while, it'll work.
For a while. Yeah. And then we'll see what happens. But yeah, for a while, you know, I feel like there's that argument from Republicans a lot that I hear from the right, where it's like, well, people just don't want to pay a lot for their clothes and their groceries. So that's why we have to rely on slave, labor or low wages. And I mean, you can say those words, but that's cherry picking one part of it, because nobody would mind paying a lot, or I think people wouldn't have a problem paying a lot for their eggs or their fruit if they were making good wages themselves. But you can't screw everybody every which way. Like, pay your labor and then the prices are higher. Also, don't take, a $30 million, like there should be a ratio, a proportional ratio between, I mean, I think, obviously that we should all have a democratic work environment, but, like in Japan, they have a ratio between the highest paid worker and the lowest paid worker. Right. There has to be something it can't just be like, well, Americans, that's the excuse. Well, Americans just like to buy their stuff cheap. That's why. Yeah, because you're not paying Americans, because Americans have to work 3 jobs to barely put a roof over their head and not be able to afford to go to the doctor. Like, they need to have things cheap. You cannot you can't take from every part of everything.
Well, they've maxed it all out, and that's where the next 4 years are going to be interesting, because, you can't afford rent. You can't, I mean, I brought home 2 bags of groceries. It was $100. 2 small bags of groceries was $100,
No, it's crazy.
Rent is off the charts. Rent is like half of most people's income these days. That's so different than 20 years ago.
You're supposed to be a quarter. Yeah.
Half of your money is going to rent. And so, I mean, how do you lift yourself out of that? That means everybody is one healthcare emergency away from being fucking homeless, essentially.
And the premiums are so high.
Minus your family network, which is why, again, it doesn't affect libs, because no matter what, there's a little family network around that'll bail a lot of these people out.
Yeah.
They think.
Yeah. I mean, the comfort of knowing you can rely on your family, you have a home, whatever it is, generational wealth, that makes a difference on what you will be moved to fight for. This is Trump just making everybody feel a little bit better about the price of groceries.
I hear so much about the word groceries. I used to use groceries a lot on the trail. A word that's like sort of an old-fashioned word, groceries. But groceries is the word that's the most accurate word. And the price of groceries went through the roof. Bacon was levels like nobody's ever seen. You take a look at eggs today. I mean, the eggs are double, triple, quadruple. They're going through the roof. Now, there's some problems that may, a little outside problem with eggs maybe. But, we inherited a mess.
A little outside problem with eggs, maybe. We are now importing,
groceries.
I think,
that word. Sorry, I'm stuck on that.
It's like Mayfair. Like it's what was the Andy? What was the the Mayfair police? Whatever, Barnaby. Anyway,
it reminded me of Hillary going into that apartment with the face of hers, and like this is how people are living. Like
it's
he
so
just
funny.
learned the word groceries.
How do they do this with every president? Who didn't know the price of stamps? Was that? I think that was H.W. Bush.
That was a Bush for sure.
Yeah. And then, we pulled this a while ago, but I don't know if we showed it when it was pertinent. But one of the Jesse Waters or some Fox, host, there's a video of Kamala and Doug at the grocery store. And, I can't stand either one of them. But like they're shopping together as a couple. They seem to be in love. I don't know. I don't care. But like they're shopping together and he's making fun, like what kind of cuck of a husband goes shopping with his wife? So like Trump's going to make fun of just the word groceries. Like that's so, old school to call it groceries. Then they're going to make fun of even doing the shopping, but we're never going to address the actual corporate greed that's leading us here or the impending bird flu epidemic that we've just cut off. And as like the flu rates are through the roof, the highest in like almost a century, I think, because we have all collectively destroyed our immune systems. And now the World Health Organization has no communication with scientists in the US, with our CDC.
Yeah. Great. Let's save that for our little COVID spiel.
I know, but I just love his reference to it. He's like, well, there's a little problem with the eggs. So
yeah. No, and that's how they're covering all this. Like, you'll see the caption will say, the Chiron on TV will say egg price is down because of bird flu, but they don't talk about the bird flu part of it. They just put it in the Chiron. There's no expert on there saying all the birds are dangerous. It's there's a place where scientists discovered that every animal in the area has bird flu. Like it's crossed every species, literally every species they tested in this place. Everyone had bird flu. So we're going to all pretend that we're somehow magically immune from bird flu hopping to us while it's hopping to us. But they're not going to talk about that. That has nothing to do with egg prices going up. It's just abstract bird flu. But tell us the threat of the bird flu. Why are the eggs?
Oh my God. Thank you all for the Mayberry. It's so absurd. Thank you guys. You guys are all coming from. What did I say? I didn't say Mayberry. I said some other thing. Andy, whatever. Anyway,
me. I wasn't listening. What was it? I missed the whole thing.
You missed the whole thing. It wasn't important anyway. It wasn't very good. Yeah. And as Kimmy says, there's bird flu now in Antarctica, which that's always crazy to me. It was like when we were first shutting everything down, like at the very beginning, when it felt like the whole world was shutting everything down, truly. And they would do these things where it was like, we're going to go to a bubble. Everyone has to test before and, silo himself off, isolate for 2 weeks before and all this stuff, and then test again and PCR. And they would get together after all of these precautions and COVID would still spread somehow. We're so fucked. Okay, what else can we say about our co-presidents, Musk and Elon? There's a different clip now that I did pull just because it's from a few days ago when they were taking the, questions in the Oval Office where Elon's 13th child, 12th child, whatever, X was there and telling the accusation was that he was saying all these things to Trump that were really disgusting and inappropriate and like shitty little kid. And it does seem like he was. Do you want to just play it and see? What do you think?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think he was. In retrospect, I mean, I was kind of conflicted on it. Could this be AI? Could we be stretching here? But I think he did it.
I kind of do too. All right, so here we go. Let's just say what we think.
This is X, and he's a great guy, high IQ. He's a high IQ individual.
Is to restore democracy. Well, if you don't have a feedback loop, FX, you would have to, if you sorry, from one year to the next are the same. Partnership with the agency heads, and I checked previously with the president to make sure that
I never hit my kids ever, but man, that little.
Can I just tell you, I knew spoiled rich kids, little kids like his age, and they grew up to be the biggest dicks and the most spoiled. And you can't blame this kid, but you can hate him when he's old enough because whatever, he's got an effect on people. But
I mean, yeah, it's not his fault that he's a little shit, but he's a little shit. And of course, it's 100% Elon's fault and his whatever the mom.
You named his kid X. Like, think how special you think you must be if your name is X, like compared to everybody else. And everybody kisses your ass, and you're in the White House wiping your boogers on the desk.
Oh, like God, just disgusting. Okay, thank you so much, Egg64. Thank you. My homie said we won't hear about bird flu on MSM until the bald eagle on the American seal literally dropped dead.
True story.
And we saw that last month. Bald eagle had bird flu. I'm really sorry for your eyes. I know you have
that's
an issue.
It's a strike thing.
I know, but I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm letting it go. I'm allergic to cats. That's why I have two, because I'm a very smart individual.
Just so you see a little bit of where Musk came from. I mean, he's repulsive. He absolutely, if he didn't, of course he did the Nazi salute. It doesn't even matter because he's done so many other disgusting, racist, white supremacist, union busting, gross things and supporting the AfD in Germany. And I mean, he's just awful. He said at one point, he claimed that he did not grow up in an emerald mine or, with his family who owned an emerald mine, and his father, right away corrected that, and I'd never seen his father before. And then this video just cropped up. I don't know when it happened, but this is just like an example of the crazy that he is part of.
Roll it while my eye bleeds.
I know. That's what I'm trying to help you take a moment. Okay. This is Errol Musk, the father.
Africa had never been impressed with Obama's approach. We realized we'd learned Obama's a queer married to a man who dresses as a woman. We'd all learned that. It's not common knowledge, that
Michelle Obama's a man.
Of course. You don't know that?
I didn't know that. No.
Well, now you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joan Rivers mentioned it publicly, and she was dead 2 weeks later, by the way.
You think?
Oh, yes.
They axed her, eh?
They axed her, yeah. So that's common knowledge. You can look it up on any internet thing.
I'm sure.
And Michelle Obama's a man. Obviously, they've got, got pictures of her in tracksuits with a 9-inch slong hanging down her leg. It's a leg. Anyway.
Yeah, it's common knowledge. I read it on the internet. It's common knowledge.
It's common knowledge. I'm sure the right-wing people just all ignored that common knowledge when she ran for president and didn't want to bring it up in the public because it was just beyond the pale. No, they brought it up.
Yeah.
Well, but it was covert and discreet propaganda online.
Yeah.
Because it's bullshit. And
of course it's bullshit.
So obvious. But I'm just saying, if it was real, it would be like a banner over New York. Like,
right. Yeah. It wouldn't just be like these spurious sort of, rumor mills.
But
but just to sit there like with all the confidence in the world and hoping people just listen to him like he's, spewing forth pearls of wisdom.
And what people need to realize is RFK Jr. is him. The difference is RFK Jr. has read some shit and he can refer to the study that made him believe his stupid fucking beliefs, but he is every bit as conspiracy theory riddled as this guy.
I mean, so gross. So that he's disgusting on one side, and then his mother, and this is a really big thing with all of these tech bros, repopulate. They want to make sure, even though they're racing to do EI to replace all of us, but they also very much want to make sure that a servant class will still be there. And so they don't understand why people are complaining that it's too expensive to have kids. So here is a little bit of advice from Miss May Musk from just a couple months ago.
And you were recently getting a lot of attention because there was a comedian online who said, listen, I get it. People don't want to have, they're talking about the birth rate, which your son talks a lot about it declining and the problems for humanity with that. And you said to his response about it being too expensive to have kids, you said, that's not the way to think about this. Explain.
Well, when I had my children, we were in a 2-bedroom small apartment overlooking a garage. And then the next year, I have the second child, we had an apartment with a view. And then by the third child, we could get a 2-bedroom house. And you just, as you move on, you start doing better and better. But people, you don't have to go to the movies. You don't have to go out for dinner. You can just spend time with the most wonderful gifts you can ever have.
Exactly.
As a children.
You didn't.
Does she not know how expensive just giving birth to a child is now? Like, giving birth to a kid is poverty if you're lower middle class. You immediately become in the lowest wealth class because it's so expensive. And just her saying garage, that is so,
and like every year,
like,
it's her South African.
But you upgrade every year.
I mean,
I'm sorry, how do you upgrade if you have $100,000 in student loan debt?
Right.
Or,
and you have to work 3 jobs because your union busting son is fighting against all of the, unions from organizing. So you can't spend time with your family. There's no public schools anymore. You're homeless, but keep popping them out.
Yeah, keep popping them out. And daycare is ridiculously expensive. Other countries have figured out how to have a government piece to daycare. We don't. It's just another huge bill that, is put on the middle class.
They really are just a repellent group of people. They're not trying on any level to ingratiate themselves to anybody. I mean, it's like the lack of self-awareness on any level. At least Trump, like, he knows when to sort of pretend, right? Like, he went on all of those bro podcasts and tried to act like he's a normal guy. There's just no insight. There's no urge. There's no indication that they even care.
They're coasting on Trump being a dick and a bully. And that got him a lot of weight with the right. They're like, yeah, we're so sick of these elites and they're talking down to us. He called that dude an R-bomb. He said he's gay. Oh my God, she's bleeding from her whatever, touch her in the pussy,
Yeah.
So that stuff it's carrying so much heavy lifting for a nerd like Elon that they naturally want to hate. These guys naturally want to hate him, and they're starting to. But they started out, they began with, well, he's buddies with Trump, so
he's brilliant. He's the smartest guy and the wealthy.
Yeah,
it's like a self-fulfilling, right?
Of him to get in there, even though we don't like him. Because I don't know, you just believe that because Trump told you that. It's just that simple.
High IQ. Imagine saying that about a little kid. Also, like, what are you like? I mean, of course, you're like, oh, you're brilliant, you're so, but like a high IQ individual, just so warm and cushy.
And the casualness of him there. I mean, somebody did a whole thing on, the being in the Oval Office without a tie.
Yeah.
But I don't care about that much.
Yeah.
But it also shows just how comfortable
Entitled.
that dude is running entitled to running the show, that he's there with the t-shirt,
his
he
way
brings
in
his
there.
fucking
Yeah.
kid in, his kid is
His nose
talking
all over the way. Yeah.
It's just like, fuck you peons to the whole fucking world in front of everybody. And Trump is sitting there going, well, yeah, I got to do this, I guess. Cause this guy, he got me the election. He's got Twitter, we're all getting rich off it, but he didn't like it. But I still don't think there's a rift coming. People are like, oh, wait till they blow up at each other. They're getting so fucking rich off this. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah. I think that makes it all go down pretty smooth for them. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I do think that Trump doesn't really enjoy being president. Like, he doesn't like the work of it. He likes the parties. He likes people kissing his ass. He likes the money. So as long as
as long as Elon tweets that if he was gay, he would be with Trump every month or so. It's like, oh
yeah.
The ego is fluffed.
Yeah. Bill Burr, I don't listen to his whole Monday morning podcast. It's like 2 hours, and it's truly a podcast. So there's no visual. And I guess I need like extra stimulation. But he's been really holding down the line. He and Macklemore, and I'm trying to think of any other high profile entertainer who is at all trying to speak out against truly power, not just like the right or Trump or Elon. There's a lot of like the low hanging fruit of the gross MAGA and that, but like truly speaking out against all billionaires. Because as we were saying, as we all know, Elon was Batman. Like, liberals loved him. He was a good billionaire. They thought Elon Musk, Bill Gates, George Soros, the guy who, with the helped break the strike for the railway workers, Cheese Louise, the other one who's a Democrat, but who's on, he's a billionaire. He's always, people are
Warren Buffett.
Yeah, it was actually coming to me as you said it. I swear I saw it flash. It was coming. It just took a while. There was this whole fallacy. Mark Cuban, and
the good billionaire,
who's walking around now basically saying he supports what they're doing. Like, if you want to bring down the deficit, you're gonna have to fire some people. Let Doge do what they need to do. Right.
And that's the right wing media talking point.
Yeah.
But no matter how painful all this is, you guys wanted this and it needs to be done. Yeah. So that's going to be the justification. Yeah.
He was the surrogate for Kamala. He's the one who was like, no, we're going to get rid of Lena Khan. And the other guy who gave, the $7 million to her campaign, Reed Hoffman, right?
Well,
anyway, they're all horrible. They're horrible.
Yeah, they're horrible. And what we're queuing up is billionaire on billionaire fights. Which, like, even if your billionaire wins, we all lose. Yeah. So, when they keep coming on TV and saying how the economy is great, but the economy is great, but your rent is up, your healthcare bill is up, you're working longer hours, you don't have healthcare protection, you don't have healthcare, you don't have work protection, groceries, eggs are $28. You can't get eggs because that's coming. We're not going to have eggs. We are not going to have eggs
or any chicken related anything, right? So like we're about to have a real food shortage. Plus, if you get rid of all of the slave labor, you're not going to have people picking your crops that you're poisoning with lithium battery explosions. I mean, like, we're about to endure something that I feel like a lot of people are not fully aware of what's coming towards us. But yeah, I mean, the real unemployment rate is at almost 25%.
25%.
Right? That's
it's 27, I think. It's like, or it's 24.
It's like 23.4. Yeah, something like that. 23.7.
Someone fact check. I think I'm closest. What's your over under?
Well, we do have this that was quoted directly.
23. God damn it. Right there. You pulled some math.
I did. Right from the article that we shared last week. But if you include people who can only find a part-time job when they need full-time work and those who are paid poverty wages of less than $25,000 a year, the real unemployment rate in the US is 23.7%, while 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So there are no good billionaires. They are stealing our labor and destroying our environment. So that whole, and I mean, I don't know, we should probably take a break before we move to,
Well, while we're on Musk, obviously people read the story today about he impregnated this journalist. I don't know what she does, but
she's an influencer, isn't she?
She's an influencer, but she also, I found this article searching on my own, no less.
Oh yeah, doing your own research. You read it.
Did my own research. But she was running around on TV doing a lot of these things, backing up tech and saying Musk is a genius, that kind of stuff. So is it odd that isn't that something that should be exposed when you talk about her? There, like, nobody's even talking about this piece of it, that she was a shill on TV all the time for him.
But like, what were her qualifications for that anyway? Like, why would anybody believe her in the first place? I mean, I agree with you that if there is something that should destroy or possibly impinge her credibility, show that somehow she's not, being truthful or might have other motives. But I don't even know what her baseline qualifications to talk about.
I really don't know.
Abilities would be, but
I don't know. She's
the whole
attractive
thing with
woman, and allegedly. Did you see the stuff today? You never know what's fake until you vet these things.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it a little minute to
think it might be fake that she was they used IVF, which that part might be true, because I've been hearing now that I guess a lot of his kids are through IVF. But then the other aspect of it, which I think is fake, but we have to do our research, but just said we took the best parts of different organisms and I think that was a fake tweet. But the fact that it's even at all believable, because he's such a wackadoo, and you have his dad sitting there saying, oh yeah, it's a known fact, of course, Michelle Obama's a man, and they're just living in a different reality, and it's working out fairly well for them right now, which it just feels like terrifically unfair.
Yeah.
Like really, really unfair. I would love to try to get this guy on. He wrote a book called Survival of the Richest. We've talked about it a little before, about all these billionaire bunkers and like what their worries are for manning in the end times, how they are going to keep their bunkers staffed. But so we'll show this little bit of his
I'm just going to go with the reality background here for a minute.
Yeah, I like that. That's exactly where we are.
This is
I was invited to do what I thought was a talk to bankers or something at a resort. And instead of me going out on stage to do a talk, they brought these 5 guys into the green room who started peppering me with all these questions about the digital future, Bitcoin or Ethereum and augmented reality or virtual reality. I figured it was one of these things where it's just these 5 billionaires looking for, investment strategies from someone who's on the ground in the cyber revolution. And eventually they got around to the question of, Alaska or New Zealand. Right? So they wanted to know mainly how to prepare for the inevitable collapse of society. And the question we spent most of the time on was, how do I maintain control of my security force after the event? Because their money's going to be worthless and these guys will turn on them. And it just struck me that here are the wealthiest and most powerful men I've ever encountered, yet they feel utterly powerless to influence the digital future, that the best they can do is prepare for the inevitable collapse and, insulate themselves from the reality that they're creating by earning money in the way they're earning it. And it was sad, but it was indicative of the way these folks are thinking. The high-level billionaires, like the Elon Musks and Jeff Bezos, they want to get off the planet altogether, really just leave us behind. But the mid-level billionaires who can't afford rocket ships, they want to build, bunkers and secret communities and get robot guards and, and to protect themselves from the rest of us.
It's to protect themselves from the rest of us and also the world they created. Because it's because of them. Like this, everything that's happening now is because of their pathological greed. Their need for money and power for everything.
1000%. I mean, if we had a government that didn't kowtow to these rich people that donated to their campaigns and ran the country, there'd be a check on this stuff. We'd say, look, society has to be at a certain level. We can't have this number of homeless people. Getting basic health care can't make everybody fucking poor. Like, what is wrong? But we don't have that check anymore with either party, which is the important part that we obviously always come back to, is like, Democrats are not going to get us out of this at all. They created this situation.
Yep. Yeah. Until we get money out of power, and they're not going to let you vote that out. Right. I mean, you look at any time there's a vote that goes against what they want, and they just pretend it didn't happen. Right. When they, like, for the 2016 primary and the 2020 primary, they just decide they're going to, end that. They didn't have a primary now. Then they just install Kamala and lose. When Atlanta, when they voted, the city council forced a vote and everybody showed up and voted against Cop City, they're just going ahead with it. Like, it doesn't even matter. Nothing matters. Our voice doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And the Democrats, like you said, they're just caving left and right. They didn't stop a single fucking appointment. All these fucking vile people. Like, I thought they would use their leverage. I really thought they'd stop RFK Jr. And he's the biggest threat to society. I'm telling you, he's the guy.
I mean, I think he's a huge threat. And I think, I mean, I agree with you. I think he's a huge threat. I also think, he has absolutely no qualifications in medicine or science at all. Like, but
None.
anyway, like none. And Pete Hegseth, who's like, whatever, the white crusader tattoos all over him, and a Fox News, not news, pretty face or whatever, what's it called? Anchor, where they had to like scrape him up off the floor because he had so many martinis for breakfast. Like, I thought that the guy that had the proud white supremacist tattoos all over his body, who was a wild drunk whose mother said no woman should be in the same room with him, I did think that maybe they would go against him. Anyway.
But they probably lobbed a couple of these guys up as bait to lose so that, Democrats could have their little win or whatever. Democrats are so bad that they all got fucking through. Like, they didn't use any capital to stop one of these appointments, not a single fucking one. And now they're pulling, they're caving to Musk. They're already setting up. Well, I think Musk is doing some good things, or, he's a powerful guy and we should just listen to him. So here's a clip.
And that was a proposition of mine. Unfortunately, Democrats are only focused on one thing right now, Mr. Musk. The fact of the matter, he's quite popular. He has the largest platform in human history, which is, of course, Twitter/X. And I think we're missing the boat as Democrats. And all I'm saying is that sometimes it's better to join them and actually play a role in how the strategy works, rather than so pathetically, frankly, try to combat something that clearly is a steamroller, and Democrats are being steamrolled. And I'm deeply concerned about that. Yes, Musk is not elected. He has no accountability other than Donald Trump, and that's a frightening combination. And I don't want to cross my fingers. I think Democrats should join the club and then have more credibility to actually raise the alarm about constitutional issues. Right now, it's the boy who cried wolf.
Well, what does that even mean? I mean, first of all, Democrats aren't doing anything, but I don't understand what he's even saying. Join, like they've just okayed everything. They said, we're not going to try to shut down the government. We're going to send through all of your appointments. Like what is his Dean Phillips fucking asshole? He's another billionaire or multi-millionaire.
Well, it's just like the Squad, like, well, we're going to save our fight for the minimum wage.
Yeah.
Oh, when did that happen?
You don't understand everything that's happening behind closed doors.
Right. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, every time the Democratic leaders meet with constituents, activists, groups. Every group comes out of it like they have no fucking plan. People, alert, alert. The Democrats do not have a single fucking idea. They just started forming committees to talk about stuff. They want this country to suffer, A, because their donors want it. So they're just like, great, these are handouts to our donors.
Yeah.
B, because they have an easy thing to run on in 4 years when the country's fucked. And C, because they're all personally rich already. They're isolated from the punishment of all the suffering that all these policies induce on the country are not induced. They're not put on them.
They won't feel any of it. Yeah.
They won't feel it. It's easier to run. If I'm a politician, all I care is my own self-interest. I want the country to suck for 2 years. So in the midterms, I can get in there and go, look at how it sucks. It's an easy fucking layup for me to win.
Yep. And you raise a ton of money off of it. I mean, I think that's the other thing is as long as their donors keep kicking in, they don't need to win elections, right? Like it's actually not super fun to be a low-level politician and have to go to these meetings and struggle and shake hands. Like the best thing is to get your money, be able to come on to CNN or MSNBC or Fox or whatever every once in a while to get a job with a nice cushy lobbyist, company. Like that's actually much more what these people want. None of these people wants to be a public servant. Like not one of them thinks, hey, I want to go into government to help my society. Not one.
Yeah, it's easy too also to just come on TV and say, look at the bad stuff. Like that could be our whole podcast every week. I could just say it is, but like I'm not a politician. A politician, you got to try to fix something. You know what I mean? Like it's pointing out what's fucked up about Trump. Yeah, you're going to be right. You're not even betraying your own beliefs when you say that stuff. But when you're in power, you got to show up for something, push back against your donors. Now we've got a conflict between what you say and what you're doing. And they don't have that when they're out of power.
Well, yeah. And like now, it was either Rashida Tlaib or I think it's Jayapal who just, now that Dems are completely out of power is trying to put forward a bill that would end Citizens United, get money out of politics.
Yeah.
Now Bernie's going around to talk to people. Now they're going to talk about Medicare for all. Like
exactly. Why don't they just get a Medicare for all bill up and say we did it? Yeah. We tried. They should do that now.
Yep.
People are complaining about my background, so here we go.
It was just Josh being a jerk. And no thank you for the garlic bread.
We have the meme theme going.
I like that he's looking at you and she's looking at him. Yeah, it's good. I like it.
Salty. That's for the Jimmy Dore crowd calling me gay. Just thought I'd put it out there.
That was nice of you. All right. Where do you want to go? Does everybody need a drink? We should move on. We have a couple of word to the wise from Charles Barkley. We could
do whatever floats your boat. I'm going to change my background. Really important stuff here while we're doing this.
All right. I just love Bill Burr right now. We're going to listening to a minute of Bill Burr. Is that all right?
The people that are struggling out there because of these billionaires, and they got us all arguing liberal and conservative. We got to stop doing that. Like, I am so tired of hearing about people going to bed worried about what's going to happen next week. There is so much money in this country. And there's so much work being done, and if you work a full week at a job, you should be able to pay your rent. You shouldn't have to go out and get a job and still be struggling. It's bad for the country because then the kids don't see their parents and they're not getting the upbringing that they need. It's so these billionaires. They need to be put down, like rabid dogs. They're like rabid with greed and just going out and just dividing everybody.
It's funny because, he's really good friends with Joe Rogan. And I feel like Joe Rogan had a bit of that a while ago. And now he's gone full on to the whole like tech bro and all the bullshit about how unions are bad and all the, he's had all these billionaires on, right? And he's all like, because he's not all that bright, but he really loves Bill Burr. And I'm waiting for Bill Burr's,
Well, Bill Burr was on Joe Rogan
Yeah.
and shredded Joe Rogan, told him to his face that like he's not a fucking genius. He should shut up about COVID and all sorts of things like that. He also did the same thing to who's the other HBO clown, the little guy.
Bill Maher?
Bill Maher. He went on
That
Bill
was
Maher.
beautiful. Yeah.
I mean, he speaks truth to power, and power in his industry as well. He's talking to two of the money makers who can launch your whole fucking career, and he doesn't give a shit. So imagine if take out the kill the billionaires part of it, but imagine if
That's the best part.
Democrats had some of that messaging and leaned into that instead of Fetterman's great because he wears a fucking hoodie and he's dumb.
Yeah. I mean,
that's how
funny.
you relate to the right, because he's wearing a hoodie and he's dumb.
Yeah. And he's authentic, even though the base doesn't like him. The base doesn't like him. But I mean, I feel like there are a lot of left-ish pundits who are still stuck on, well, Democrats are, they like to follow norms. I mean, that was the thing with Biden. He was such a norms follower. And first of all, like, that's just a lie, right? I mean, you don't do a genocide because you respect norms. You don't go around 26 environmental laws to continue Trump's racist fucking wall because you're a norms follower.
Yeah. The norm isn't you stop your entire agenda of raising the minimum wage because a parliamentarian steps in the way. That was never a norm.
No. So like they're giving him cover and the Democratic Party cover for being like rules followers and cowards. And they're just, they don't know what to do. They're bringing a knife to a gunfight. No, they're like, we all know, but like there's no hope for people who are paid to lose. Like, that's it. That is where they are making their money. Nancy Pelosi didn't gain over $100 million in Congress by being a rules follower who respects norms or by fighting for her constituents. You got the wrong people. It's not happening here.
Yeah.
And term limits don't matter. I know I keep seeing this term limit thing. Term limits don't matter. First of all, they're anti-democratic. And second, if you don't take money out of politics, nothing changes. Everybody who comes in is still paid to fight against all the policies that we all need. So it's not, I believe in democracy and,
I think the problem with term limits as a solution is that even if it's short window, they'll get bribed more for when they leave office. So they're just become
it's like a faster rotating door. Yeah.
They get a job on TV or they get a high placed job within an industry that they supported.
Yeah.
So it's all the money in politics regardless. Like that's the most important thing to me.
Yeah. And if somebody's good and is doing good work and you have true elections that are, that we can actually like have receipts where that your vote was counted and where in poor neighborhoods, they're open and well-staffed for long periods of time. And, all of those things, if we have a true democracy and we take money out of politics, if somebody's doing a really good job and the people want them, that's democracy. Like, I think that's great, right? But if nothing's going to change if we don't take money out of politics. And right now, every billionaire is helping destroy our world. That's their whole focus. And all the philanthropy in the world is to combat the very problems that they caused. They caused the problem. And then for $100 million, they get to say like, I donated this and it's a library. I mean, I don't even know if any of these people do philanthropy at all anymore anyway. Like the old school philanthropy, does that even exist?
I mean, we're at a point where like there's no check and balance whatsoever on the philanthropy part. Like Elon, every tragedy that ever happened, Elon is out there saying, I should do this, I'll donate this. Never done fucking fuck all for anyone anywhere. Like he's the least
doesn't even pretend. Yeah.
Jesus, I can't even say the word right now.
Philanthropic.
He's garbage. Like he's stealing money from us left and right. The government, while he's out there with his fucking 10-year-old hackers investigating all these organizations, leaving them wide open for hackers. They're not hackers. They're IT people, but they're kids. They're like 20 to 25 years old. All of them leaving gateways to steal all of our information that is proven because hackers got into this stuff and found all these open things that these dumb kids that are unregulated, unauthorized, all of it to be in there. But that guy who's investigating us is getting $400 billion to fucking make the Tesla Cybertruck that is the dumbest, fucking most useless car on earth into military tank. I don't know what do you call it?
Cybertruck, military. And the guy who tried to blow himself up in Las Vegas basically did a commercial for that because it all
they were all like great.
Anyway, also I think it was 400 million, just so nobody says it, not billion,
70 trillion.
He's revolting, doesn't even pretend. He said a couple things, like he was going to fix the water pipes in Flint. He was going to, save that Thai team,
drowning
the soccer team. Yeah, in the underground cave. Did I turn your mic off? I didn't actually.
I did.
Yeah. He never did that. But Trump and his whole family have been banned. I think they're banned from starting any, charity in New York because it was such a scam, and the Attorney General of New York investigated, found it, and they have a lifetime ban of doing charity in New York. I mean, listen.
Idiocracy is real.
I don't like philanthropy anyway. I think it's horrible. Wait, what'd you say?
I just said idiocracy is real.
It is. It's real. Yeah.
We're watching it in front of our eyes every day. And the people that you can't wake up to this fact. Oof. I mean, our lib friends get it now. They're like, they look at that and they're like, that's bad. And we got to convince them, why are we here? The Democrats, they're the ones who got us here. But the people on the right that are still hanging on to this is not this is good somehow because we're cleaning up the government. We got to point out all the billionaires and all the people getting rich off this and how it's just a scam. So we can't just go after the Democrats.
Of course not. I mean,
and
that's what I'm saying. All this stuff, they're not even talking about. Wait, but see, here's the problem: is Trump didn't run on. What did he run on? Getting rid of immigrants. He didn't say I'm going to raise your wages. He said I'm going to lower prices. We're going to get rid of those evil immigrants.
Yeah, but he ran on stopping inflation. I mean, he scapegoated. That was his whole campaign, obviously. But he also ran on stopping inflation, getting out of the wars, that kind of stuff. So that there's easy stuff to point out that he's full of shit.
Oh my God, he's totally full of shit. But there weren't tangible, tax cuts.
Promises.
That's what it's going to be. It's going to be a tax cut for the wealthy. Another tax cut. Awesome. Okay. What do you think? What do you
we left COVID out, but look, COVID's bad, bird flu's bad. Wear your mask. There's so much evidence that masks work. There's a big study out there on COVID that we got 1 million long COVID kids. There's an article calling for a moonshot because there's a clear connection between COVID now and cancer. And so, if you're ignoring that with your kids getting COVID 3 times a year, how long do you want your kids to live? Let's just be real about that. So
I thought it was also interesting. There was a recent poll on mask use, and even though it's way less than it was at a certain point, white people have the lowest numbers of mask use.
Yeah, it's a financial thing. These numbers should be way higher. They should be, the green part should be the blue part, right?
Yeah.
But if it's not, 2% of white people are wearing masks. And I don't even believe that's true. I think that's people answering polls saying they're doing it because I don't see 2% of white people.
I don't either, but I mean, some older people sometimes do, but the dark blue and the light blue together are either most of the time or some of the time. But man, that green hardly ever never is huge. But then you look and okay, so Black respondents, 36%, so over a third, Hispanic 27, Asian, and I don't know what that asterisk is for. Oh, representatives of English speakers only when they were asking Asian adults, and that was at 32%. So, that is a huge difference. And of course, there's a huge difference between Democrat lean Dem, which is at 24%, and Republican lean Republican, which is at 10%.
But if you broke this down, it's really social economic status, right? If getting sick has cost you already, you are more likely to wear a mask because you realize the financial burden on your family, even if you're not disabled from it. You're
you
like,
can't go to work.
2
if you
weeks
go to a
of not
doctor,
working.
you're probably not insured. Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Wear a mask, please. We have bird flu. It's right here. It's right here.
That's gonna
Do
be.
you want to be in the first group that's like, oh, the government didn't warn me in time. I got bird flu.
And the one other thing I will say is, part of, I think, the difficulty, especially with younger people, is it feels like there's no end in sight, right? When it all started, it was like, we're going to just shut everything down for 2 weeks to get to flatten the curve. And then it was like, well, until we get a vaccine. So even a year is, it's crazy, but it's sort of doable. And a lot of people really stuck to that and did it. But then we're in the 5th year now. There are, it looks like, possibilities of nasal vaccines, which is the way they think we'll really be out of it. That's really the way out. And there's like 6 different domestic studies or, trials that are being set up. All different kinds of, where the spike protein kicks in and all that kind of stuff that I don't really understand. But it does seem like as long as we don't defund this, I mean, hey, Mark Cuban, Bill Gates, throw some money to this, like do something, because the fact that we are not keeping up with the strains, that we're letting it just run rampant, I think, if we don't head it off soon, it's just going to be, the variants, the mutations keep happening. We can't always be a year behind.
We can't, but this is why I get so pissed at the left media like Jimmy Dore and whatnot. Look, we have 6% of our population has long COVID. Can you imagine 6% of our population having something that's disabling to them? And the left not saying, well, this is an issue we should talk about. Our government's ignoring this. Take any other issue, 6% of your whole fucking population, and these people are ignoring it. And they're ignoring it in the face of 2 other pandemics they should be talking about. They're ignoring it. Well, it's not a pandemic, but TB's coming. It's all related to COVID, but TB's coming back. We got norovirus. We got strep. We got all these things that are brought back because of your weakened immune system from COVID. But we've got bird fucking flu in your face, not being reported on. And these people won't talk about it. And it's 6% of our population has long COVID right now. And that's the reported number. We know it's probably.
I think a lot of people don't even realize that what they're experiencing is long COVID. And then there are all the different, like sort of latent infections or viruses that you might not even be aware that you have, and the next COVID infection could wake them up. That's, what they're seeing happening. Right. So like it's really scary, and it's compounding. And to see the levels of flu right now that are sending people and kids to the hospital.
The most fatal flu year in 20 years.
Yep. Public health. I'm sorry. Before we tap out, I see Justin. I need to put my glasses on because there's a lot of writing here. It makes it small. Where are you recommending buying masks now? Oh, yeah, I know. 5 years. Okay. There's a couple of things that I need to look, because I have 2 places that I know have been, were recommended by some of the epidemiologists that we have done research with, or, done research off of their research, who are very aware. They mask, they test them. I can't remember the names. I think Lutema is one, and there's another one. They've been so nice to me, like that. It's a small business, and they've reached out when an order came wrong, and they sent me a ton more, but it's like approved, the NIOSH version, all that. So I will find it. Just remind me if you remind me.
Got it.
If I forget to do it. Yeah.
I don't know the website, and I don't know if Rachel is watching, but Rachel, someone who played in our games the other night, she sent me a link, and I didn't know why she was sharing it, and it was like box loads of N95s from the government, but they're super cheap. It was like $60 for a box of like 500 or something. Like, it was crazy cheap. But she was sending it to show that the government has these, and they're just selling them instead of distributing them, instead of getting out there in the public and saying, hey, use these masks. Hey, LA, here's these masks. You've got these masks that are expiring, which, masks expiring is kind of a thing.
I didn't know they expired, actually.
Well, they don't really expire, but there's a recommended date kind of thing with masks. But anyway, the point is that they're incredibly cheap in bulk from the fucking government, because the government is not doing their fucking job. And the government paid like $10 billion for these fucking things. Yeah. They overpaid like tenfold. Of
course. Like,
and they're just selling them out, and they're going to rebuy them because this is the fucking racket of the US government.
Yeah. I mean, we never go indoors without a mask on. So, I will blame my son Xander for giving me my one and only COVID. I still feel something's weird with me sometimes. Anyway, all right. We spend a lot of time. Yeah, I don't know all those places. That's Canada. Okay, cool. I have to look at all that. Bona Fide. That was the other one. Bona Fide is the mask where that's where I get my masks. Is mine. My face is a little smaller. So we, like, everybody in my family wears a different kind of, we do mostly KN95, unless it's anyway.
And I like, I mentioned this online, but if you're going to the gym, wear a mask, obviously, but I like N94s because they have the opening in the front and they seem to breathe better. So for me, just at the gym, I wear those, but everywhere else.
Yeah. Their rating, though, is still, I know that like the 94 and the 95, but like, yeah, I mean,
if the seal's good, you're good.
Yeah. Josh does the KN94. So, we obviously love protests and fighting and speaking out against what's happening and railing against this horrendous system. But every once in a while, to see people who are like, what would we do if we won? Like, what do we do? Then you win, and what do you do? And so we're going out on one good thing of a way to fight climate disaster and also build community, because that's what we're all fighting for in the end. So thank you all. We love and adore you guys. We'll see you on Wednesday. Keep punching up.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This brand new rental community in Tempe has all the amenities: fitness center, dog park, outdoor kitchens, but something's missing. So there are no cars in this community at all.
Isn't it great?
Cul-de-sac is the first community in the U.S. designed and built specifically for car-free living. Co-founder Ryan Johnson says the demand is strong.
Every generation, and including 92% of Gen Z, would like to pay more to live in a walkable neighborhood.
Retail, restaurants, and to start, nearly 200 apartments, all within steps of each other. No cars means no parking spaces, no garages.
Because we don't have residential parking, it opens us up to have 55% landscape space, and we get to add so much to the neighborhood.
Like social spaces around every corner. The complex is strategically located right next to the area's light rail system. All residents get a free pass. The first 200 also get a free electric e-bike, and a partnership with Lyft gets them discount rides.
I've been fine just going via rail or just biking.
Juan Ramos, among the first 100 to move in here, grew up in Arizona, but left because he didn't like the car-dependent sprawl. At 27, he just came back and says living car-free has opened his eyes.
Frankly, for most of the apartments I've lived in for years, I've never even talked to my neighbors. I know people, like, that's Pete over there, that's Ben over there, and then I'm like, that's the first time I've said that.
Residents often gather near the retail stores, which focus on small businesses. Jada Stratman is moving both her Home Sense business and herself in.
It's not as affordable out here as it was a few years ago, and having that opportunity to live and work where you are and just have it as one, that's perfect.